Darfst du die Sonne?
Let's go.
Those words came out in German if you got them, because I'm here with two Austrians who love the mountains and couldn't come to Galilee without doing Mount Arbel. And the third guy stayed sleeping. He missed it all. And here we are with a marvelous view on a splendid morning on Magdala down there in the center at the edge of the water. Let's do a sweep around.
Look, you can check the drone pictures. Just a view of the drone.
You have it? I didn't see where it was.
Yeah, it's so tiny. But actually, if you look closely, there is this small
Speck.
spot.
So people, here we are up in Mount Arbel this morning. The nature is really flourishing. Saw lots of flowers on the way up. I'll find a few for you in a couple of moments here, I think. It's just magnificent. So we'll turn to our readings today. Oh, there you have lots of flowers underneath us here. And we have Jeroboam setting up two altars for two golden calves. And one of them is up near Mount Hermon in Dan. So we're way up above this ridge here. And we can't, oh yes, we can see Mount Hermon. You can see the sun and the snow. And so just at the foothills of Mount Hermon basically is where we have Dan. And there's still a gateway there that's from the time of Abraham. Now you can see the snow there in the center of the screen. I don't know if you can see. It's faint, but I'm sure you can see it. So Martin was worried there. He got his drone finally back, but he was worried. He thought he had lost control of it. There's Wadi Hammam, and here is Migdal. I just learned about Wadi Hammam that it is actually founded after 1948 for all the displaced Bedouin family from Tiberias and another big Bedouin family from the Hula Valley, which is north of the Sea of Galilee. It's the closest town to us because we're in the town of Migdal, and this is our closest neighbor here, which is very interesting. And it's comprised mainly of two major Bedouin families, about 1,600 people there now. Also notice the fog on the edge of the Golan. I don't know, yeah, you can see it there now pretty well. It's an unusual phenomenon to see fog here. So Jeroboam builds 2 golden calves. Can you imagine? What does that sound like? That sounds like at the foot of Mount Sinai, after liberation out of Egypt. Amazing. The kingdom has been ripped away from Solomon, from his son, as we were reading yesterday. And then golden calves, that sounds like Egypt. And how easily we can forget God. And how marvelously enthusiastic we were about Solomon's wisdom as a young man. And I think there we have an early experience of the great wisdom of praying for perseverance. Perseverance in our faith until our last breath. Because we are so fragile. I'm coming over here on the edge of these stones so you can see the flowers close up. Just make sure you step in the right place, people, that you don't slip, because it's quite a drop down here. And look at all these flowers here, millions of them, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Isn't that amazing that the gifts we've received, how easily we can, our heart turns, how easily our heart turns away. How fragile we are in every way, physically, psychologically, emotionally. We human beings have to take stock of our condition. If we had to skip a couple of meals, we would be very weak. Things would be very difficult for us. What can look like a flourishing church community can also be very weak. Let's not judge the book by the cover. There's a saying as well that not all that shines is gold. And that means we also need to be humble in front of great success. Because all these successes are very fragile until they get sealed in eternity. This valley is so fertile. All the beautiful crops coming along. New harvest in preparation. So much life. So much work and husbandry taking care of all the crops. So much care for human relationships. So easy to express frustration, anger, and say things and do things that cause hurt. sometimes irreparable damage, or seemingly irreparable damage, because all damage can be repaired. There we need that blessing from God. God's kind of a specialist in repairing damage. Even though we see these golden calves, we shouldn't be pessimistic. We should be realistic. Realistic means we're very fragile. People make incredible mistakes, do very selfish acts, ignore very much the gifts God has given them. Those are our two Austrians up there. We just found him at the right moment there when he was... These are great kids. One of them is a volunteer in Jerusalem, and two friends came to visit. It's interesting to see how people still can come when most people would have that completely ruled out of their perspective. These kids have great goals, great vision. They were participants in wonderful youth work, and yet everyone is fragile. How much we need to be aware of that. Not to take things for granted, not to coast along. And there Solomon came into an inheritance of kingdom that he didn't have to struggle to build. His father did that. And maybe that's something that a lot of people, entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs, have begun to learn over the years, over the recent decades, that serious wealth left easily in the hands of children might be a great harm to them. We have to learn the value of money, the value of earnings, to learn what it takes to build a life, to build a home, to build a family, not to take for granted the effort to build community fabric and social fabric in a culture, in a country, in a people. It takes a lot of people very generously involved, sowing seeds all the time. And right across the lake here, a little bit of north of where the sun is, we have the memory of the multiplication of the loaves, the second multiplication of the loaves. The first one is up here at the foot of the Mount of Beatitudes, the 5 loaves and 2 fish. And there you can see the monastery of the Benedictines, and over on the right you can see the Church of the Primacy. And so there we remember this great miracle of the feeding of the 5,000. And then over here on the eastern side of the lake, we have the multiplication of the 7 loaves and the feeding of 4,000. And some interpret this being over on the other side as being in the non-Jewish area, the land of the Gerasenes, and how Jesus does miracles on both sides. He wants to feed people on both sides. A few days ago we commented how Jesus came to the plain of Gennesaret, Gennesaret, and that's here. This is the plain of Gennesaret here from Mount Arbel up there to those hills. And there are a couple of wadis, like Wadi Hammam. Maybe I should go back here a little bit so you can get the idea. We won't be able to go back enough for you to see, but at least to understand. So down here we have Wadi Hammam. And you can see Har Nitai, the Mount Nitai in front of us, and this is Mount Arbel here. And between the two we have Wadi Hammam. That is the natural connecting route from Nazareth to Capernaum. So that Jesus would have come through here is a very logical conclusion. and then gone on here to the lake. So all this area here is the Gennesaret. Then we have a word today in the reading in Mark chapter 8, Dalmanuta. And there's an altar with that name up at the Tabba monastery. And the word Tagba, that's where the multiplication of the loaves is actually a linguistic corruption of heptapegon. And it has become Tabcha. I won't go into all the intricacies of that, and I'm not the expert either. And similarly, Dalmanuta, scholars hypothesize that that is from Migdal Nun, Dalmanuta, Migdal Nun. And so that's a theory then that maybe that refers to coming to Magdala, Migdal Nun, the fish tower, which was the name of Magdala in Hebrew, and a very similar one in Aramaic, a different one in Greek. And then when the Israelis built this town here, Migdal, they obviously built it on that ancient name of this location here, Migdal, Migdal Nun. And so it looks like Jesus came back this direction again here. So he actually was coming then from Tyre and Sidon. And here maybe we should look at that. Also, we talked about that the last few days. So you have these mountains here on the Lebanese border. Keep praying for peace. And if we were to go out to the coast, which is still a long way over, then we would have a view of Lebanon, because it's very close to the Lebanese border. And then you have to go up the coast to Tyre and Sidon. And now you can get a little idea of the distances Jesus walked from Tyre and Sidon up on the Lebanese coast all the way over to Decapolis, the 10-city region, an administrative region since the time of the Greek dominions after Alexander the Great. And the first one was Hippos, which is right across the lake, more or less where the sun is hitting the water there in that spot. I can't see well here with the light right now, the exact spot, but that's more or less where it is. Maybe a little tad north of there, because it's across from Magdala. And and then the most southerly Decapolis town is in Amman in Jordan today. It was called Philadelphia. And so somewhere over there is where Jesus had gone then to the Decapolis. So that gives you an idea of the travel Jesus did. That's Dominic. And here is Martin, and they'll have stories for Johannes when they get back. Oh, I was telling you something about visitors. Yesterday also we had a 101-year-old pilgrim come to Magdala. She is with a group from India. The whole group was here 2 days ago, and I met her then. But they were back again yesterday and had lunch here with us in Magdala. And so it was an amazing fact, a 101-year-old. So let us take strength from these readings today, inspiration and good resolutions to, like a good athlete, you can't take for granted that you'll win the Olympic medal. They train with great precision and regularity. And our spiritual life is worth more than an Olympic medal. And the thriving of our faith communities and handing on from generation to generation is worth more than a Nobel Prize. And so let us work with that diligence of the great scientists and the great athletes, as we don't take for granted anything. We keep doing the daily activities that correspond to sowing the seeds, to responding to God's call in little things, so that we can be faithful in the big things. People, God bless you. See you later, alligators. Our little selfie moment here to say goodbye. God bless you. Come on. There we go.